The crickets.
The crickets.
Oh my gosh, this one made me laugh so hard.
As the cold winds of winter sweep in, there's nothing like the warmth of a comforting cup to help you slow down and unwind. This is the season. Let Postum be your cozy companion. Made from roasted grains, Postum is caffeine-free and rich with a smooth roasted flavor. It's the perfect drink for those quiet, chilly mornings. Whether you're curled up with a good book, sharing a laugh with loved ones, or simply watching the snow fall outside, a cup of Postum is the moment you have been waiting for.
Hello, welcome to This Week in Mormons, the Twin Sisters edition with your hosts, Ariane Smith
and Tiffany Hales.
Real life sisters and
sisters in the gospel.
That's right. So we're here for January. I did not realize that we had not podcasted in January till you told me. But by the time you listen to this, it will probably be February. We're
Very true.
Squeezing it in at the last minute.
Squeezing it in.
We haven't done this since before Christmas.
I know. It has been a while. We have just both had crazy lives ever since Christmas. So we have a lot to catch up on.
I know.
So you start, and then I will hit my list of things.
Okay. Well, I don't.
Oh, first of all, we need to comment that we are both wearing pink today.
It's true.
You got the memo. I declared this pink week at the beginning of the week because she had a
major win.
I had a major win
at work.
And so and hot pink is just a color that I feel like super strong whenever I'm wearing that color. And so I was like, I'm going to wear hot pink the whole week. And so I have worn hot pink the whole week.
And I got the memo.
And
I participated.
We look so cute together today for those of you who are watching on YouTube.
We never coordinate.
So plus it's daytime. We always record in the night.
Yes. We're just switching
We're
it up.
switching it up today. I know. And I got to take the afternoon off because I had built up a lot of comp time as a result of
hence the major win at work.
The major win at work.
Because you've been sacrificing your life to it.
Oh gosh. Anyway.
Not much new with me. I am still started a new year, new primary, not a new class. I'm still with my same class, my son's class, which are
fun.
Little ones. Our primary is just shrinking. We have total of 4 classes in primary now.
Wow.
So I didn't know if I was going to make the cut or not because I knew they were going to cut some teachers.
Dang. And you were like, don't make me go back to Relief Society.
A little bit. I was like, I would kind of like to stay. I like the kids. I like to play with the it's just a great place to be. But I got to stay. So yeah, I mean, we have 4 classes. We probably have 20 something kids total.
Oh,
between 20 and 30.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Total. That's a small primary.
So yeah, I mean, my class was already like 3 classes combined. I think we're like 4 classes combined.
Okay.
No, anyway, that's what's new with me. Just still in primary, still dance is taking over our life, but it's almost over soon. High school dance.
Dance has not taken over your life. Dance is ruling your life. But is dance mom extraordinaire.
Yes. Another week or so, and that normalcy will resume, hopefully.
Okay, you need a prize at the end of a dance competition season to reflect that you survived.
I'm going to have to buy myself something really nice.
Because I'm not even sure this is a Thrive situation. I think this last year was clearly survival.
It was all survival. I just went into this very rosy-eyed. I just had no idea how intense high school dance would be for my daughter and for myself.
I know. One of my friends tried to warn you.
She did. She really did. It's like having a baby. People can warn you, but you're not really
you don't know until you're in the middle of it.
But I did survive. My daughter survived.
I would say your daughter has thrived.
She thrived.
She not only survived, she thrived.
That's
and I
true.
saw her step up and level up in ways this year that I've never seen her do before.
Yeah.
And I'm a very verklempt, proud aunt.
Yes, she did some hard things. Their team had to do some hard things this year, but they did. I'm very proud of them. And
very good.
Very happy to move on to soccer season. I will resume my role as soccer mom, which is so easy. You show up to the game. I will never I know I complain a lot about the weather, but I have a pod that I bought myself last year.
And
I have
like
a full
sleeping
body
bag,
zip up sleeping suit. Dance is an indoor sport, which is great.
Yes,
but it makes soccer look so easy. I will sit out in the snow, yes, in my little pod, and I will not complain this season because I am going to realize that all I have to do is show up, and that is pretty dang easy.
Exactly. You're not battling teenage girl hormones.
Yes.
All right. Well, last time we recorded, it was the day before I was doing the giving machines.
Oh, I can't believe it's been that long.
I know, it really has. So I promised that I would return and report on my giving machine experience. So we were assigned Saturday night at 7:00 at one of the big kind of outdoor mall areas here in the Boise area. And we were running behind. We got there a little bit late, which usually I'm pretty much on time. But for whatever reason, Saturday we were running a little bit late. And so I was like, oh man, all the good jobs are going to be gone. I was kind of bummed. And so when we got there, the two jobs that were left, this was me and my husband. One was to stand at the front of the line and engage with the people while they were waiting to go up to the giving machines. And then one was to stand at the back of the line and direct people to the line. So I promptly told my husband, you go take the back of the line job. And I took the front of the line job, which I can't believe nobody did want, because that was the perfect job for me.
I bet you loved that job.
Oh, I ate
it. Just chat people up, right?
I ate it up like a delicious piece of cake. So yeah, seriously, all I had to do was hype the crowd, get people jazzed up. I would give them these cards so that they could look at them and before they got to the vending machine, the menu. And then I'd engage them and say, hey, what are you going to buy today? You know, why did you pick that? And it was really fun to talk with and engage people.
So was it busy?
And I had a blast. It was really busy. Like when we got there was definitely a line. I mean, people were getting through in, 10 minutes. I mean, it wasn't, you weren't sitting there for hours. And by the end of the line, had dissipated. But yeah, it was really busy.
And here's my question, because you got to be there for a full shift and see. I'm assuming, like, what percentage do you think were members?
Oh,
like 90,
like
95%
were members.
I'm like, did you stumble upon anyone who wasn't a member?
There were some people who had brought non-members with them. But yes, for the most part, from what I could ascertain, they all seemed to be.
I was just curious, because the times that I went, it seemed like all members, and the time, and it was like so heavily promoted to us as members in our stakes and wards that, I mean, it was like, if you're a member, you're going to.
Yes.
So I was just curious if you happened upon any like wanderers by.
Well, you know what we did? We did happen. There were actually lots of wanderers by that we stopped and talked to them. They didn't end up getting in line, but
you told them what it was.
We told them what it was, and they looked at the menu, and so there you go.
I was just curious about that.
And I got an email afterwards, thanking me for volunteering and indicating that the machines will be making a return to Boise next year.
I bet they will. It seems like once they hit a location, they usually come back.
Yeah.
That would be cruel to.
It would be cruel
take them away.
to give it to then take it away. But when they come back next year, it'll be interesting to see which local charities the church vets if they
because will they pick a whole different set?
Exactly.
They probably
no idea if they're going to pick a whole different set or if they're going to pick some new, some old. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
It'll be really curious. I do have to say the number one thing that a lot of people were picking. Goats.
The goat. Everybody likes the goat.
They all wanted to buy a goat. I had people going, why can't I buy chickens? And I'm like, well, chickens aren't on the menu today. No chickens on the menu today. But no, lots of goats were purchased. Oh, and then right as I got there, somebody did the option where you can purchase one of everything.
They did.
And the vending machine goes crazy.
Oh, does it have lights and sounds?
If you purchase one of everything, one card of each item will drop, and you can watch one card of each item drop, and it lights up. And anyway,
that's cool.
It's very cool.
That is cool.
Very cool. So anyway, that's my return and report on the giving machines.
Okay.
So next one, I have a new old calling. And Ariane's laughing.
Anyone surprised? Every time you get a new calling, it's the same calling with a different name, but you're doing the same thing, and it's Relief Society events. Tell me you're still doing Relief Society events.
Okay. Well, so as you all know, because I have talked about this, I was in a Relief Society presidency for 3.5 years. We got released in June. They asked me if I would stay in charge of Relief Society activities, and I said, sure, no problem. And so then they came to me in December and they were like, we're doing a little restructuring.
Mm-hmm.
Will you be the Relief Society secretary? And I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I got out of the presidency, and like the Godfather, they suck you back in.
They suck you back in. When did you get out? June?
June.
So you didn't even make it a full year.
I didn't even make it a full year. So I am back in the presidency as a secretary, which is significantly less weight and responsibility than a counselor. I think I would have
You
said,
don't have to go to as many meetings.
No,
right?
to the counselor thing. And I love the sisters that I'm serving with. And anyway, so it's and here's what is interesting. And I think this is universal with Relief Society presidents, with bishops, with presidents of the church. Anytime you have a change in leadership, the new leader comes in and they are looking at it from a different perspective, usually than the previous leader, and see things differently and want, and in conjunction with prayer, want to do things differently. And I think that that's just a natural occurrence. And I think about President Nelson, and I think about him coming in and all of the changes he made. And I compare that to President Hinckley. And you think about President Hinckley and, the I'm a Mormon campaign and how he wanted to, really get that out there in the social media sphere for everyone. And then President Nelson comes in and just axes Mormons, says, no, we're going to go by Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That never existed.
And so I think that, different leaders are called for different times. And I also think that different leaders are called to reach different people. Not every leader is going to reach every person. And so that's why I think that change is important. And that's why I think learning to adapt to change is important, because there are different leaders are going to reach and connect with people differently. And so this is the vibe of this presidency is very different than the vibe of my last presidency. But I also see both presidencies doing my first presidency did very good things. And I see this presidency doing very good things as well. So it's just
a change of leadership.
It's a change of leadership.
The same is true with high school coaches.
Oh, yes.
I can attest to that. Change can be hard. Change can be good, but
oh, yes.
sometimes can also be hard.
I am living it in a religious sense. You are living it in a secular sense.
Yes. That is a leadership thing that applies universally. Like change in leadership brings so many good things.
But and I don't think it necessarily means that what the prior leader did was wrong or bad or not working. I just think that change gives everybody an opportunity to grow.
Oh, definitely.
And that is what we all want to do, is we all want to grow and change and be better. And so I think that change just gives everybody an opportunity to grow. And it is hard. That's kind of how
I think it's just our natural, human tendencies is that in general, people just don't change. We get used to something. We want it to be the same.
Exactly.
So that is just something we all have to overcome in all aspects of our lives. So.
Okay. And next I brought you a visual aid today.
I'm scared.
So for those of you on the YouTube, I am holding up this book called Mormon Country Cooking.
Here we go again.
It is by Winifred Jardine.
When did we go through our last cooking phase?
It was about a year ago. It was a year ago.
Oh,
so
seems like longer.
Apparently, let me tell you where the book came from. So I have had David Larson on this podcast a couple of times. I have podcasted with him.
He's in your ward.
He's in my ward. He's come on my Taffy edition. He's great. Really like podcasting with him. His father recently passed away. They were cleaning out the house he's lived in since I think he was a very young child.
Okay.
And he ran across this book. It was in the DI pile.
So this looks 70s. Is this 70s?
It's 80s. It's early 80s. It's like 82, 83. So it was in the DI pile. So he took a picture of it and he sent it to me. And he said, "Are you interested in this book or should I leave it in the DI pile?" My immediate response was, "Yes, please."
Oh, no.
So
what are you going to make us try?
So I looked at it and apparently this Winifred Jardine, she says the book is gratefully dedicated to Deseret News readers who contributed to many of the recipes.
So is this like an old collection of like Deseret News
so
published recipes?
I am guessing, and I have not Googled her, that perhaps she was some sort of a writer for the Deseret News and did food recipes for the Deseret News, because you don't recall this because you were born very late in the 70s. Mm-hmm. But in the 70s, because our mom wrote a newspaper column in the 70s all about sewing. Oh, the newspapers were full of all sorts of homemaking things in the 70s. And so I am guessing she was a writer there. I have had a busy week and I have not had a chance to peruse this yet. Okay. But I am thinking that when you and I podcast at the end of February, I will cook something from this. Okay. And I promise I will not pick the grossest thing in here.
Well, I have to say, compared to that last cookbook that you brought us, that had what did we make? The weird Jello thing. I don't know. This looks a little more legit.
Okay. Right? Well, it has.
I'm sure it has some strange stuff in it.
It does.
It also looks like it might have some really good things in it.
It has a whole bevy of tomato juice beverages.
Oh my gosh!
Do you remember when I made
tomato
you try
cake?
Yes.
Remember the tomato juice cake?
And I made you try a hot tomato beverage.
Oh yeah, that was gross.
Anyway, so it does have a bevy
tomato
of that.
Juice must have been a thing back then.
It must.
Oh
it
dear,
must have been
I'm seeing some cottage cheese.
Yes, lots of cottage cheese. There's a whole huge section in here with seafood recipes.
Oh,
and I'm like,
that's interesting.
Now, you and I do not care for seafood, so we will not be trying that. But we've got dessert and pastries and frozen strawberry squares. I think I remember that. I think I remember eating that at a church function as a kid. Anyway, I will find something in here that I will cook for you next time we record, and we will discuss Sister Jardine's recipes from her book.
Okay. Hey, the question is, will she find something delicious or will she find something to torture us with?
Okay, I promised I would not go for the grossest stuff. My husband saw the book and he's like, "Oh no, we're not doing this again, are we?" Because I made him try a bunch of the recipes. And I said, yes.
It was a tomato cupcake. That's what you made. Remember? It was tomato cake.
Yes, it was tomato cake, but I also made the tomato juice.
The bread in the can?
Yes, you made the bread in the can. Goodness. Anyway, so yeah, he is quite concerned I'm going to torture him. And I said, yes, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be cooking some recipes out of there.
Okay, you need to, when you dig into the book, you need to hunt and see if there are funeral potatoes in there. You might have just discovered the origin of funeral potatoes.
Let's, okay, you start talking about the mailbag and I'm going to look and see.
All right, while she hunts through the book, because we may have stumbled upon the original funeral potato recipe.
Oh, yes.
While she hunts through the book, we got a letter from a listener who actually we thought we would share his thing because it's actually kind of cool. So his name is Isaac Wright. And I actually know his parents from when we used to live in Santa Barbara years ago. I saw the name on this letter and I was like, no, is that the same guy? It is the same guy. His parents are lovely people. He was a young child when we lived in that ward in Santa Barbara many, many years ago, but I loved his parents. Anyway, his name is Isaac Wright. He writes a newsletter called Saints and Cinephiles. And it actually looks really cool. He has a Substack. I think he also has an Instagram page you can look up. But we'll link in the show notes to his newsletter. What he does is he interviews LDS people who are in the film industry, not necessarily like the LDS film industry, but just people who are members of the church who work in the film industry across all gamuts, like costume people, stunt people, directors, actors, just a wide variety of people who are members of the church who are in the industry. He interviews them, and the goal is just to kind of highlight, because it's a very unique career and probably even more unique for members of the church. And his latest interview is with John Heater from Napoleon Dynamite. So obviously that's a pretty big name. So it is actually looks like a really fun newsletter. So we will link it in the notes. Kurt will link it. So readers can find it if they're interested in that.
Okay, so I looked in the index of the cookbook. Believe it or not, there are no funeral potatoes in here. There are potato and mushroom soup, potatoes au gratin, potatoes with sesame seeds, potato pancakes, potato salad, potato soup cheesy.
Okay.
I cannot believe Winifred doesn't have funeral potatoes in the book.
That's a fail.
That's a fail right there. Seriously.
And this is straight out of Deseret News, right?
Well, yes,
we think,
and it was published by Bookcraft.
So this is the heartland.
This is the heartland,
the motherland. There should be a funeral potato.
Maybe funeral potatoes weren't as big of a deal in the 70s as the cult trend has become over the last.
Maybe
few
it
years.
Developed into the 80s.
Yes, I don't know. Anyway, okay. All right. Well, should we do some news stories since we're actually here to do some news?
Yes.
Okay. First story.
Okay. Oh, I've got the first one.
This broke last night.
Okay. The church issued a statement on immigration policy. Obviously, with the new administration, there is a lot of fear and speculation about what's going to happen around immigration, fear on the parts of people who are here undocumented. And there have been a lot of rumors about going into schools, going into churches, et cetera, et cetera. So the church kind of released a statement on it. This is very similar to what they released
previously
before.
But they gave a few more guidelines this time that they hadn't given in the past.
Yes. So again, they really put an emphasis on keeping families together. But they said three things. They said the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints obeys the law. They said we follow Jesus Christ by loving our neighbors, and that includes all of God's children. And then the third thing they said was that we seek to provide basic food and clothing as our capacity allows to those in needs, regardless of immigration status. Yeah. So I think that was a way of saying, listen, we're still helping people, whether they're here illegally or not. We're helping all of God's children. Now they did not go any farther than that as to like.
Well, actually they did. They have a bunch of specifics there about how they counsel that they gave to local bishops.
Oh, so I don't think I saw this
to
section
not
of it.
Be in. And what was interesting is I had no idea the church has the Office of General Counsel. Okay, so that's a bunch of lawyers. And so...
Oh, I did not see... You need to talk about this. I clearly only read the first part of the article. I did not see this whole section on there.
Okay, well then let me just take
I don't know how I missed it. I thought I read the whole thing. Okay. I did not see this part.
Usually the church uses Curtin McConkie. Mm-hmm. That's their law firm. But they have the Office of General Counsel. So I don't know if this is a new thing or whatnot, but the Office of General Counsel issued the following attached guidelines for area presidencies and area 70s and told them, go help your bishops and stake presidents be made aware of this. So what they said is local leaders may use fast offering funds to provide temporary assistance for essential needs like food, clothing, medical care, regardless of immigration status. Okay. If local leaders have reason to believe someone is undocumented and not authorized to work, they should avoid potential conflicts with federal law by avoiding or limiting housing assistance, not transporting the person outside the local community, and not referring the person for employment.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Third thing, leaders should not provide legal advice, testify in a legal proceeding, or sponsor immigration efforts. Fourth thing, leaders may refer families to community resources that address their immigration issues or help prepare them for possible separation in cases where family members may be deported. And then the fifth thing, church buildings and resources should not be used to shield individuals from law enforcement.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't think we've ever seen anything this specific.
No.
And these specific guidelines came out in response to the Trump administrative orders.
Right.
That he signed on immigration.
I'm sure they have to get specific just in case someone shows up at the door.
Exactly.
So, oh, that's so tricky.
It is.
I really hope that doesn't happen.
That's tough.
Such a hard position
for
to be in.
Leaders to walk.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I mean there are branches where this could affect massive parts of the branches. So I just hope that does not become an issue.
Who knows? Yeah. A new day has dawned here in America.
Okay, well, I'm glad you fully read. I think I might have read a different article than you read that did not have all the details. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you for that update.
All right. We have a bunch of lawsuits and an update on the California wildfires. So I'm going to go through the first lawsuit update that we have. Not John Huntsman.
One of those Huntsmans.
James Huntsman. James Huntsman is the one who filed a lawsuit against the church saying, I want the return of my $5 million in tithing money because I think you duped me. The church filed a motion for summary judgment. The court granted the motion for summary judgment and said, yeah, the church didn't dupe you. You don't have any basis for this lawsuit. So then what Huntsman did is Huntsman then went back to court and he got, where is it here? Oh, let's see. He went back to court. He appealed, and the Ninth Circuit panel reinstated the lawsuit by a 2-1 vote in August of 2023. So then the lawsuit was back on. Excuse me. And so those were only three of the justices that make up the panel of the Ninth Circuit that voted for that. Mm-hmm. So after they voted for that, the church went back and they asked for, and they were granted an en bloc appeal of that reinstatement. The en bloc panel of 11 judges, so now they've got all of the judges on the circuit court, heard oral arguments in September 2024, and apparently they really peppered Huntsman's attorney with all sorts of questions. The panel said it would issue a written decision, and the written decision came down today, the very day that we are recording. And the panel of all 11 judges on the Ninth Circuit kicked the lawsuit out. And they said, yep, summary judgment was appropriate. Mm-hmm. They also said that Huntsman could not prove that the church had duped him. The court's members also ruled that the church's autonomy doctrine protecting faith from undue legal intrusion had no bearing in this case because nothing in the court's analysis of Huntsman's fraud claims delved into matters of church doctrine and policy. And they also found there was no way in which Huntsman could prevail without running headlong into basic First Amendment prohibitions on courts resolving ecclesiastical disputes, and that the Huntsman didn't present any evidence that the church did anything other than what it said it would. So
now this surprises no one, right? I mean,
no.
We were all pretty sure that this was going nowhere. Is there anything left for him to do? Could he appeal further?
I suppose he could ask the Supreme Court to hear the case.
If he wanted to go that far. But
if he wanted to go that far. Right? But the thing is the Supreme Court, people ask the Supreme Court all the time to hear cases. And the Supreme Court picks and chooses.
Right.
And
the odds of them picking this are
could go,
slim.
Yeah, not so much interested. Yeah. Bye-bye. So I think the odds of picking them are slim. Picking the case
They have a lot of other stuff they got to deal with
Yeah, they do. So I think that I think that's a good win for the church on the issue of tithing. And again, I wasn't entirely too surprised. So a couple of other lawsuits that we'll talk about before I'll get to the California fire updates. We have talked about this before, the temple in McKinley, Texas. Mm-hmm. Also, McKinley, Fairview, it's the McKinley area, but it's technically in the town of Fairview.
Right? Close
to
yes, Dallas?
It's part of the Dallas area, mm-hmm. and they really need another temple down there because the Dallas temple is very, very, very small. I think it's about as big
as Boise.
As the Boise mm-hmm. temple. And so they really need another temple down there. So they had decided to put one in the McKinley area in the town of Fairview. You may recall they went through all the planning stuff. They went to council. When they went to vote, they had literally met every guideline. And it came down to, well, we don't really like your design and how high your steeple is. And so they rejected it, even though they met every other guideline. And the interesting thing about Fairview is in most towns, and I've talked about this before, you have zoning ordinances that say churches are permitted in this particular area. Fairview has none of that. And so what that means is anybody who wants to put a church in has to get it approved by the council. There's no guarantee that you will ever get your church in Fairview. So after the council denied it, the church said, we're going to assess this. We're going to see, if maybe we need to file legal action, if this might be an infringement of our religious liberties. Well, rather than do that, the church said, okay, we're going to go back to the drawing board. And they met with the council members and they met with the mayor to see if they could mediate an agreement. So they mediated an agreement.
Which I think everybody was
everybody was happy.
We were happy to hear that. Like, oh, good.
So the mediated agreement took the building down from 44,000 square feet to 29,000 square feet. It's going to be 1 story, not 2 stories. And the steeple went from 173 feet to 120 feet.
So they made very significant concessions.
The church made huge concessions.
This wasn't just like fine, we'll shorten our steeple a tiny bit.
We'll change the paint color. So, they made some rather significant concessions.
Which I was happy to see, because I think that's being a good neighbor.
Mm-hmm. So they're getting ready to file their application, and then all of a sudden, the mayor and council members are backing down on this mediation, and they're like, well, I don't know if we're going to approve it.
So they're not being a good neighbor.
Our constituents don't really like it. They've gotten a lot of flack from their constituents who don't want this LDS temple in their neighborhood. And it's not even going in a neighborhood. It's going adjacent to a 4-lane roadway.
And there are other churches, it sounds
There's other churches on this roadway. And there's commercial stuff right across the street. So it's not like it's going in the middle of some quiet neighborhood. Anyway, so the church is not submitting their new application. They're kind of assessing what they're going to do. They're afraid if they submit the new application based on the mediated agreement and then the council changes their mind, that potentially that could impact their legal ability to take legal action against the town. So it's kind of all up in the air right now. And of course, the town people are like, church came in here and bullied us. I'm like, I mean, I wasn't there, but at the same time, if the church is knocking 15,000 square feet off their building, is making it from 2-story to
1 story, that's a big concession.
And reducing the steeple by 50 feet. Those seem to me to be pretty significant concessions that the church was really trying to legit work. And it seems like everybody liked it until they told their constituents they liked it. And then their constituents told them, no, you really don't like it.
Yeah, it's a bummer to hear.
It is a bummer.
Well, and I saw they had giving machines in McKinney, Texas at Christmas. I had seen that on social media.
I didn't.
Like, I'm sure they're trying to build some goodwill there. Maybe those giving machines didn't do what they had hoped.
Exactly.
That's too bad.
Next lawsuit. Okay, so UDOT, which stands for Utah Department of Transportation, has filed an eminent domain suit against the LDS Church for the widening of a street in Clinton, Utah.
This one was hilarious to me. I'm like, is the church not playing nice with the state of Utah? I thought they were buddy-buddy.
Exactly. And I mean, not only was it funny to me, this is exactly what I do in my job.
Oh, I know you love this one.
I do. I work for the Attorney General's office in Idaho, and I am assigned to the Transportation Department, and I work with property owners when we
She takes people's land. Just kidding.
I'm trying to be nice.
I'm just kidding. No, she negotiates a fair price for their land.
I try to negotiate a very fair price for their land. I do have to say, we have had to file suit against several religious institutions here in Idaho. None of them have been the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they've had some legit concerns. And usually, what happens is, we file the lawsuit and we work out, what those concerns are, because again, we're, at least in my opinion, the Idaho Transportation Department is trying to be a good state agency and say, look, we realize it's super intrusive. We're taking your property. We would, how can we make this less intrusive? Right. So apparently they're doing this widening of I-15 and creating a new interchange there in the Clinton area. And that this is going to gobble up all of the building's front setback. And I guess they're going to lose a couple of curb cuts and a parking lot. I don't know if access is an issue, if they're going to lose their access, and maybe that's what the problem is. But anyway, I thought it was quite fascinating because
the church is holding out.
I would assume 9 times out of 10 in these situations that they work a deal with the church and they don't have to get to actually filing the lawsuit.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
So, yeah, fascinating. All right, California wildfire update. Last time I podcasted, when I podcasted in the Taffy edition with Laura, the wildfires had just broken out. We didn't have a whole lot of news regarding members that were impacted, buildings that were impacted. There were some amazing pictures going on social media, which I'm sure you saw, where they had the LDS temple, the Los Angeles temple at night, and in the background, the fires of behind the temple. It was kind of some incredible photography. Anyway, come to find out, we did not lose any meeting houses. There was a meeting house in Pacific Palisades that miraculously did not burn, but several members in both Pacific Palisades as well as Pasadena have lost their houses, which is very sad. This was an article that interviewed two people, one from the Pacific Palisades ward and one from the Pasadena ward. Neither one of these ladies had lost their house. One was a Relief Society president in Pacific Palisades. She was displaced from her house, but just how she's been trying to help the members in her ward and help the people. And the same thing with the other lady. What I really liked is they said, the Sunday after the fire began, they combined both of those wards and people had to wear whatever they had. Both bishops spoke and both gave the most beautiful, inspiring, comforting talks. It was seriously amazing. I felt the spirit so strongly in this meeting. And so just a lot of information in this article. The church has donated $1.2 million to the relief efforts, and just the resilience of the saints in saying, yes, it really sucks to lose your house, but I've got a bigger, more eternal picture, and we can rebuild. The things that we lost while they were important. There are other things that are more important.
So do we know how many total members down there lost
houses?
No,
it doesn't. None of the articles have said how many total members lost houses, but there are definitely members that have lost houses, and that's a difficult situation. I mean,
it is
our
hard.
Our hearts really go out to them. So I'm glad to hear that at least they are feeling some comfort.
Right. Well, and that's going to be just devastating on those wards. I
mean,
wards down there are already shrinking. People are moving. Like, will they come back? Will they rebuild? If they do, it's going to be years. So that's going to have a big impact. Okay. Next story. This is a story by the Church News about the church's environmental sustainability efforts. We've seen a couple of these over the years.
I really like these.
I do appreciate that the church is highlighting that they're trying to do their part to be good stewards of the earth. The article just highlights that, we believe that the earth is a divine creation, and that as members of the church, we have the responsibility to be good stewards, to maintain it, to take care of it, and preserve it as much as possible. So they have, within the church, really tried to do what they can to keep things sustainable as much as they possibly can, with church buildings, temples.
They talk about a lot of places where they've engaged in solar.
Lots of solar panels. We've talked about before that they've really tried to have be more responsible in the plants that they're planting around churches in different, depending on the environments and the water needs. But the solar panels, I thought that was very interesting. Drought tolerant plants. They just highlighted several things that they're doing, and I thought it was really nice. That it's just good to hear they're doing their part, and it's a good reminder for all of us.
Exactly.
We could all probably do more, but I'm just really glad that they're being proactive on this and trying to do what they can.
Yeah, so. I completely agree. And I love these articles because I am a firm believer in recycling, reusing, being good stewards of the resources that we have, and that, this earth was created for us by the Lord and created for us for our benefit and our learning and our growing. And I think that, out of respect for this beautiful blessing that we've been given, we need to take care of it. And I really appreciate the church talked about it, or the article talked about it, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, the sustainability that the church uses in their farming. It is amazing.
The article hit on that
they
too.
Completely, they believe in crop rotation, and they rotate where the cattle are. And as a result of engaging in this sustainable farming, they are getting more yield out of their crops, and they're getting better cattle. And so what they're proving is you can adopt these environmental policies, and these policies will benefit you if you adopt them wisely. And I love that. I absolutely love that,
because I'm sure it takes a bit more work.
It does. It's going to take more work and planning.
It's good to see that it's thriving.
Yes.
That they're thriving in what they're trying to do. So.
Okay, I love this next article.
Okay. Oh, wait, which one are we on?
No,
the crickets.
The crickets.
Oh my gosh, this one made me laugh so hard. There is a lawmaker in Utah.
Okay, well, let's give a little background. Y'all have heard of Mormon crickets.
Yes.
And the infamous story associated with the Mormon crickets and how the seagulls came and ate all the crickets because the crickets were devouring the crops.
So in the West.
Maybe fact, maybe fiction.
In the West, they are referred to as Mormon crickets. We even get them in Idaho. Did you know that?
Oh, yes.
On the trails.
I've seen them in Idaho.
So gross.
They're disgusting.
I've only seen them. They come for a short period of time, and some years they're worse than others. But one time when I was hiking a couple years ago was the first time I had really seen them on the trails. It was so gross. Like you could hardly walk without stepping on. It was disgusting.
Well, a couple of years ago when we had a really bad infestation of them down in Owyhee County, State Highway 76 runs through Owyhee County. And because there were so many crickets and they were covering the road and the vehicles were driving, it was like driving on ice in the middle of summer as vehicles were driving over all of these crickets.
They're so gross. They're so gross. So I understand the sentiment behind this. There is a lawmaker in Utah that would like to rename the Mormon cricket. She has a bill.
And it's technically not a cricket.
Or no, it's not she. It's Doug Owens.
Yes.
A Democrat from Mill Creek has introduced a bill, 348, which would require the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food to petition the Society of America, the one that, makes up these names, to rename it a name that is respectful and inclusive and accurately descriptive.
So apparently its scientific name is Anabrus simplex.
Yes, but nobody calls it that.
Nobody calls it that. So they call it a Mormon cricket, and it's not a cricket, it's a katydid.
It's a katydid.
Katydid.
So this lawmaker in Utah is trying to figure out a way to change the name because he feels that this name is derogatory towards us and our church. And, we don't use that name anymore either.
And the use of that name represents a major victory for Satan.
Yes.
Although I would say, if you've ever met these crickets, they kind of are like Satan. So maybe it's not a bad thing.
They are. So I understand where this comes from. I understand that maybe you don't want to be associated with these awful bugs, but the whole thing just makes me laugh. I think it's freaking hilarious.
It is so hilarious.
We're going to actually introduce a bill to rename these things or encourage somebody else to rename these things. I don't know. I think it's so funny.
Then what do you call them?
Yes. And there were some recommendations. He said his recommendation where he offered some other options. Pioneer cricket. That was what he offered. The author of this hilarious article said, oh, no, somebody said you could call them the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints katydid, since they're technically a katydid. I don't think that's going to catch on.
I don't think that's going to catch on. Let me acronym that and see what does that look like if you acronym that. You've got C or TCJCLDSK.
Katydid.
Yeah, so you've got TCJCLDSK.
I don't know. I mean, I could see Pioneer Cricket, but it's too late.
It's too late.
You cannot go back.
Too much in the cultural vernacular to rename it anything other than the Mormon Cricket.
It's the Mormon Cricket. Besides, if you take away the Mormon Cricket, then when it comes up, you don't get to tell the miraculous story.
Which may be fact or fiction.
We're not
a little more on the fiction side.
We're not so sure how true the miraculous story is, but
it's faith promoted.
When people say, why is this called the Mormon Cricket? That's your chance.
To go, let me tell you why it was named. Again, we don't know if it's fact or fiction, maybe fiction, but anyway, yes, and again, I'm like, well, if we're associating the term Mormon with a victory for Satan, like I said, these crickets are not nice. So is there a problem? Really?
Oh man. Anyway,
Okay.
Utah laws. Those are so funny.
Yes.
Okay. Next article. This is another kind of follow up to all of the fallout that's been going on at BYU with the church education system and the crackdown, the report that the Salt Lake Tribune did
Yes.
on the hubbub with the professors there.
Yes.
So this is so interesting. Ben Shalati, who is a fairly well-known member of the church, gay LDS, openly gay LDS, faithful member of the church.
Now, do you want to discuss your connection to Ben?
My sister-in-law is very, very good friends with Ben. So
didn't he introduce her to her husband?
He did.
That's what I thought.
He did. So yes, there is like a little family connection there. So we've just heard about him. I mean, lots of the family have met him personally. I haven't personally met him, but we've heard stories of him for years from Allie. She just adores him. And he's just a real great guy. So I've followed him on social media forever. So anyway, he had a job for many years. I think he was about 5 years.
Yeah. He was in the honor code office for BYU.
As an openly gay, like he got this job. They knew he was an openly gay, faithful Latter-day Saint when they hired him for this job. And so I think when all of the hubbub came out, he was probably getting a lot of questions. I'm sure he was. Because everybody's very curious, like, well, did you experience this? Anyway, he recently released a blog post on his blog about his time at BYU in the honor code office,
because he no longer works for BYU.
Yes, within this past year, he quit transitioned and he now works at UVU, and he taught classes at BYU also. Yes. He's got several graduate degrees.
Yes,
and so now he teaches at UVU. And so I think he felt...
And he and Charlie Bird did a podcast together for quite some time as well.
Yes.
So anyway, back to what he released on his page.
Yes. So he recently released a blog and just kind of shared his whole experience in relation to what's been going on at BYU. And it was so interesting to hear his perspective. I just think everybody should read it. It was very honest, but also he loves BYU.
Yeah.
He still loves BYU, even though he did have clearly some struggles there while he was working there. There were several times he got called in to speak with VPs who were given direction by other people to call him in and come and speak over little things that he said. He just had a microscope on him, which
he did.
You would as a gay person working at BYU, especially in this environment, since that is what a lot of the hubbub is about.
Exactly.
Are professors supporting this? Are they supporting the proclamation of the family? So he really was put under a microscope. Everything he said was scrutinized, everything he posted.
I thought it was really interesting. He talks about how they kept calling his bishop to find out if he was worthy. Finally, the third time I think they called his bishop was like, quit calling me. He's worthy. Right. I've told you that a dozen times. I'm tired of talking to you. Bye.
Right. Well, and he had applied for different jobs within the university. And every time he would apply for a different job, they would call the bishop and
the bishop is like, I'll let you know if he's not. I understand my responsibility.
Yes. So anyways, it was just a really interesting to read his perspective. He still has so much love and admiration for BYU and for the students, but he really was getting to the point, it sounds like, where he was just unsure about his job and if he would be fired or not. And I'm sure it was a lot of pressure to be under those circumstances and just constantly watched. And
one of the stories he tells, and this just grates at me, is he talks about that he was at a forum and there was a question and answer part in the forum, and somebody said, why do so many LGBTQ people leave the church? And as part of his answer, he said, I said that some members are excommunicated for marrying same-sex partners. Fact.
Right.
I mean, he's not
making this up.
He's not making this up. He's not disparaging the church. He's just saying, well, that this probably contributes to them leaving the church. Anyway, somebody wrote to BYU and was very upset about that and said, that
he got called in with a vice president
who said it might be true, but it's not helpful. So don't be saying this. And that the person who wrote in was a big donor to BYU and said something to the effect of, I cannot believe that you employ somebody who is openly gay and I'm not giving BYU any more money.
Right. So,
and again, he was never, at least from what I've seen, he was never advocating, the gay lifestyle or anything like that. He just was like, I am sexually attracted to men and that's who I am. I'm not acting on it. Right. I'm living the covenants that I've made.
And he's always been very supportive to all choices.
Yes.
Like if somebody, he's very understanding if somebody
wants to do something different.
And he's always been very careful to be like, hey, this is what I've chosen for me, but this is a very individual choice. And I just think he's been so well spoken on the thing and on the topic, and he's done so much for members on this topic.
So much to help people understand
and really put himself out there.
Yes.
And that's a huge risk. I just have so much admiration for him for doing that.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to hear his perspective. He is actually going to be on TWIM. I think Matt and Melissa are interviewing him soon.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. I know he wants to, he's very careful about who he does interviews with, and he never wants to disparage the church. He's still very active. He doesn't ever want to say bad things about the church. He, like, even in his article, he is pointing out some hurt that he had at BYU, but he's not coming for them.
No.
Like he's so nice about it.
Yeah.
Where he could be very bitter.
Exactly.
And also he has to be really careful about who he interviews with too, that people don't come for him.
Exactly.
So anyway, that will be one to listen to in the next, I don't know when it's scheduled for, but sometime coming up soon. But I appreciated his perspective because as we've been kind of talking about this article that the Tribune did, the expose, I think there've been a lot of opinions. Some people think, oh, this isn't a big deal. It's
very
a made
he
up,
said, she said,
made up story. But the tricky thing is we can't really hear from people who work there because they're still working there and they can't really share if they have had negative experiences. They are not really free to share those. And I don't know. I think sometimes when it comes to this article, we're talking about different things. I think some people are very upset that the Tribune is making this up and like, why would the church not be able to uphold its standards at its university? 100% the church can uphold its standards at the university. But I'll also at the same time, personally, I don't think there are any professors. I haven't heard any stories. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some out there. I really don't think there are professors standing up in front of class, digging on the family proclamation, saying, this is what I believe about LGBTQ. I just don't think they're preaching on it. I think having a sticker on your water bottle is very different from standing up in class.
Exactly.
Preaching on this and saying, and I think we should treat them differently.
I
don't think having a sticker on your water bottle should be the same as, standing up in class and saying the church is wrong on this. And and I just don't think that that's happening in class where they're really coming. So I think we're talking, and then there's the ecclesiastical part of it, which is a whole different set of like, Matt talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. You go to these ecclesiastical interviews, and what if you really do need to repent of something? Yeah. That is very different than cracking down on what's being said in class. Like your job and your livelihood on the line. Like that's clearly something that needs to be maybe refined and worked on for the people who are working there, but are also people that make mistakes and want to go through the repentance process and be better people. So I don't know.
I know it sounds like in the month since Laura and I talked about it, you and I are same thing. There's no easy answer.
There's a lot of aspects to it.
There's a lot. It is like an onion. There are layers and layers and layers.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, but go read Ben's blog post. It was really interesting and very well written. He's a great writer. So
Okay. And listen to the interview that Matt and Melissa do with him. I think if they haven't interviewed him yet, it's coming up very soon. So it should be out probably in the next week or 10 days. All right. Last story for tonight. So Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Of course, we're going to end on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So they finished their season. We've seen parts 1 and 2 of the reunion. We still have part 3 to go. You and I did a Patreon episode where we went down the rabbit hole of all of our thoughts about mid-season, about the Salt Lake City Housewives. But I have an update tonight, and this is on Lisa Barlow's son, Jack. And I really liked this update. And let me give you a little background here. Lisa Barlow, she considers herself Mormon 2.0. She owns a tequila company. She was raised LDS. She was married in the temple. She still considers herself active. And
she's one of the only housewives left, I think, that considers themselves active.
Well, Brittany, who was a friend of the housewife, considers herself active. But yeah, no, Lisa considers herself active, and she just
lives it a little differently.
She just lives it a little differently
than your average
Exactly. So her oldest son, Jack, and this was a big deal in season 4. They just finished season 5. But in season 4, Jack says, I'm going on an LDS mission. And this just really rocked Lisa's world because she really thought that Jack would go to college. And I don't know why she didn't think he wouldn't serve a mission, but he decides to serve a mission. And so, you see her trying to, get him all fashionista up for his mission with clothes. And you're like, no mission president is going to let you wear that. Anyway, and Lisa's just like, you can't just wear a basic suit. That's so basic, and I'm not basic. Anyway, so he gets called to Colombia. When he first goes on his mission, he gets down there and he's having some health problems. They got those resolved, but apparently he was having more health problems, and she gave another update. They wanted to send him home, and she said he refused to come home. He had something else happen where we were like, you need to come home. And he's like, well, I don't want to leave my mission and not be able to come back. He wrote the mission president and got all of us on a Zoom and said, I won't go home unless you put it in writing that I can come back. And you have to have whoever you need with the church on the Zoom so that everybody hears that.
He is clearly his mother's son.
He is clearly his mother's son.
Also, can you imagine being on a Zoom call with her to discuss this?
Oh my gosh.
She's going to bully that mission president. He had no chance. Not a chance in the world. By the end of that call, he'd be like, okay.
But I think it's just such a testament to how much he's enjoying his mission. So he came home. He was home for about 3 weeks, took care of whatever he needed to medically. Then he went back to Colombia, and she talks about how much he loves. She said he's obsessed with the country. He loves the people, the culture, the church. And he's like, Mom, it's so crazy, cool how people want redemption. So when he gets back to Colombia after dealing with this medical issue, for his devotion, he is awarded assistant to the president, and they make him the assistant to the president.
So funny.
It was so funny. And so then she talks about now he's flying all around the country in little planes, going out to, zones and teaching people. And it's, it's really, having watched Jack for several years on this show before he decided to serve a mission, this is really kind of cool to watch him go all in on this.
Right.
Absolutely all in on this.
It's kind of if you've seen him on this show, you're like, huh?
Exactly. So I think there is a good possibility maybe when they start filming season 6 that he might be actually coming home from his mission. And that would be a whole fantastic storyline.
Yeah. I'm sure that PROvo will be at the airport to film it.
Exactly. So anyway, that is our Real Housewife of Salt Lake City update. That little Jack
funny.
Barlow is doing fantastic on his mission and loves the people of Colombia. Wants to go out there and teach everybody about Jesus.
So funny. Okay, so is that it? Do we have no Mormons behaving badly?
We do not have any Mormons behaving badly.
That's great news.
We were on a stint in the fall where I didn't have any. And
then we had a few weird ones.
Then I had 3 when I recorded with
temple
Laura.
thefts.
Temple thefts. Somebody went into the church art museum and destroyed stuff. And I think I had a third one. Anyway, so then I had a whole bunch in a row. Christmas time, the stress. I don't know. But in the last month, the Mormons have all been behaving themselves.
Good job.
It's January. Maybe it's just too cold to go out and get in
People
trouble.
are too cold and sad.
Yeah. So, anyway, shall we move on to favorite things?
Sure. Okay. I have 3 categories you choose because I can't do all 3.
Oh gosh.
I have a TV show, I have an app, and I have a recipe. You pick which one you want to hear about. Which is funny. Usually I have a hard time coming up with one favorite thing.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pick TV show.
Okay.
Not that I'll be able to watch it because I am so completely behind on every TV show there is, except Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Okay. But share with me your TV show.
Well, you can add this to your list because I do think you'll like this TV show. It has an attorney in it.
Oh.
So this TV show is called Elsbeth.
Oh, I haven't heard of this.
It is a CBS show.
Okay.
I don't dabble a lot in CBS shows, but it is a spinoff.
I got the Paramount app. I
can
watch this.
It's on Paramount.
Okay.
It's a spinoff from The Good Wife. Did you ever watch The Good Wife?
I did watch The Good Wife.
I loved The Good Wife back in the day.
I think I watched season 1. I didn't get beyond season 1, but yes, I liked it.
Like, I don't know how many years ago I was watching The Good Wife. Long time ago.
Yes.
Anyway, there was a character in The Good Wife named Elsbeth.
Okay.
She was an attorney, and she made a couple of appearances on that show. She was a very quirky attorney that the main character of The Good Wife was working with.
Okay.
So she got her own spinoff show. It's called Elsbeth.
Okay.
And she is an attorney who moves from Chicago to New York, and she is hired, somebody high up in the government has hired her to watch the New York Police, NYPD.
Oh.
The commissioner, the police chief at the NYPD. They want her to go in, shadow cases, and watch for corruption.
Okay.
But the NYPD doesn't know that she's there to watch for corruption. Oh. They just think she's there to make sure everything's on the up and up, but they don't know that she's specifically targeting the chief to see if he's corrupt. Anyways, so she goes in, and every week, every episode is like a new case, like a murder case. And she's just supposed to be shadowing, but every week she ends up solving the murder. Oh. And she is just the quirkiest, funniest character.
I think I would like this.
Like, she's hilarious, quirky, and funny. And it's very wholesome. You could watch it with your family. I mean, other than there's murders, you know.
Yeah.
But
it's a little murder among friends.
There's nothing gory. There's nothing swearing. So I feel good about sharing this because I know I've shared a lot of gnarly shows on here before that have been good but questionable in content. This is good and not questionable in content.
Okay.
So I'm happy to share Elsbeth.
Okay.
It's so cute and quirky and funny.
Okay.
And it's kind of reminds me of like Matlock. Like a good old fashioned like mystery solved in one episode.
Okay. I love me some Matlock or Murder, She Wrote.
Yes. It's got that vibe to it.
Okay. All right. Well, I wore my favorite thing, and it's my nails. So I will hold it up. These are the Impress nails, and I know that I've talked about them before. At least I'm pretty sure I have.
Yes.
I love these, and they have many different categories of them. The category that I am liking right now is called the Color FX. And for those of you on the YouTube, you can kind of see they're like
shiny.
They're chromy. They're all chromed out. Metallic. And so they've got several different colors in this FX brand that all have the chromy metallic look. These are the sticker nails, but they're like the hard sticker nails. You don't put them on and file them down like you do with the regular sticker nails. They're kind of more like a gel. And they have improved their stickers in the last few years. And I can easily get 3 weeks wear out of these nails before I take them off.
Wow.
So they are fantastic. You pay a little bit more for the FX. You get 30 nails for $9 if you're going to Walmart, but I can get 2 wears out of the $9 box of nails.
You can wear the second set?
Yes, I can wear the second set. And so that's like $4.50 a manicure. Best deal in town.
I can't wear
for a manicure that's because you have my microscopic mini
I have
nails.
like baby hands.
You do have baby hands.
So there's only one size that will fit me.
Exactly. Anyway, so that is my favorite thing. The shade that I have on right now is called Wanderlust.
Those are cute.
And the reason that I like it is it's like a pinkish, goldish.
It's like nude.
Nude.
But metallic.
But metallic, and it's just Just very classy.
Those are pretty.
So
Okay.
that's my favorite thing. All right. Well, it has been so fun to record with you as always. And Twim Nation, thank you very much for listening to us. You can find us on all the social media feeds, on Facebook, on Instagram. Please feel free to reach out at contact@thisweekinmormons.com if you want us to open our mailbag and read our viewer mail, because we really do like to open our mailbag and read our viewer mail, as evidenced from our mention, our shout out earlier tonight to young Isaac.
Yes.
So please reach out, and thank you for listening.
Thanks.